Hello, and welcome back to the MinMax podcast. My name is White Boy,
And I'm Appo.
and today we're going to be talking about why MMORPGs struggle. And we're going to start it off by talking about just MMOs we've played. And why don't you go ahead and kick us off, buddy?
So when I was younger, I played RuneScape quite a bit. Then I moved on to Guild Wars.
Oh,
Oh yeah, okay, we're good. All right, so yeah, I played Guild Wars when I was younger as well. I played that quite a bit. I played that with my brother. We shared the same account. And then when Guild Wars 2 came out, I was like kind of hard hooked on that for like a while. I have a lot of hours in that. That might be like of every individual game I've played, that's got to be in like the top like five for hours played, maybe even
God.
top three. I have a lot of hours in that. I loved it. Um, and then Elder Scrolls Online, I played for a little bit, maybe like 30 hours, so I put it up there.
Mhm.
I've also tried a lot of other ones like Terra, Vindictus,
Yeah.
Rift, like tons of these MMOs that pop up here and there. But none of them really stuck with me, and I always end up just going back to Guild Wars 2 or something. So yeah, that's it. What about
All right.
you?
I started out with like old school RuneScape, same sort of thing. Then started playing Rift in high school, kind of like a month or two. Didn't do it for too long though. And then ESO on and off through college. AQ Worlds back when I was a kid. I played like way too much of that. Do you remember Adventure Quest? Yeah, so there's an MMO called AQ Worlds or Adventure Quest Worlds where it's like a fucking side scroller just full of shit. That Maple Story played way too goddamn much of, and then some Guild Wars 2 with you during lockdown when we were looking for literally anything to do. Uh,
Yep.
Played it then. Well, but yeah, that's about my list. Pretty pensive, you know. So, what makes a good MMO to you, or what do you look for when you're like trying to pick one?
Um, so when I'm looking for one, first of all, I want action combat. I can't do tab target.
Yeah,
Um, I have nothing against it. I still think tab target definitely has a place in the field. I think a lot of people should look for it if that's what they're into. I just can't get into it. I've tried it so many times. It's very dull for me. I don't like just kind of pressing cooldowns. I like being able to move, and I like my movement and my decision making there to have more of an impact than tab targeting games. So that's one thing. Um, I also like a game with a good community, and I like it to be built around the multiplayer and community experience. Guild Wars 2 did a good job when you're roaming around the world. You just randomly find little events that you can sort of be like, oh, I
yeah,
see some other people there, and you just naturally go and tag up to kill this troll that comes out of its cave or whatever. Um, I'm not a big fan of like the lack of community in sense of like, okay, let me just queue up for a dungeon, and then you just kind of sit there in like
right.
this meaningless lobby. I like kind of roaming around and actually experiencing like an open world with a community. um I always like having PvP. uh I'm a competitive player. What can I say? It's just in me to want to compete and play in PvP. I like having like a variety of PvP as well. I don't like it to just be some sort of arena. I like there to be that normal arena 5v5 whatever, along with like big massive like guild versus guild.
Big.
Uh, yeah, faction versus faction. That stuff is really exciting, and it's like when I'm want to do something a bit more casual in PvP, that's usually my go-to. Um, I also like having something to work towards. So whether it be like the next cosmetic thing I'm grinding towards, some legendary,
Mhm.
um, being able to once I kid out one character to kid out the next one. I like having something to work towards. Um, I don't necessarily just want to be given everything at end game. It's fun to have that little casual grind here and there, and as long
Right.
as the grind is good, it's nice to have something to work towards. And on that note, I love having like deep customization of
Mhm.
like the way that you play. So, for example, in Guild Wars 2, I loved conditions, and I always tried to make builds that were based around conditions. Then the odd time I make a build that was like far from conditions, and it was just pure DPS, or maybe I'm taking something that isn't necessarily like a tank, but now I'm building it like a tank. Like I like just sort of experimenting with stuff, and having a lot of deep customization there is super important to me. I do not like being like, okay, I am this class, that means I have to play this meta build or I am useless.
Mhm.
So as long as they balance being able to customize the way you play, it's really good. And then on top of that type of customization, I just love Fashion Wars. I mean, at the end, it's all about looking pretty, so That's
Oh yeah,
important.
dude,
What
I
about you?
loved that, and I actually really loved that about Guild Wars. Though was the fashion was fucking sweet. It was so good. I didn't
It
expect it to
is
be
great.
that fucking in depth.
Yeah.
But for me, I like having like really good storylines. When I queue up for MMOs, typically I'm more focused on the RPG side of it. I know
Yep.
like it's kind of weird, but I mean that's the games I grew up playing were like all RPG games, so that's why I like playing MMOs is because I can play them with everyone. Um, so I don't like when the narrative boils down to like fetch quests, like New World's quest system right now. I don't really like it. WoW's quest
Fucking
system. I
hate
fucking
it.
hate that. That's
Mm.
awful. I don't like those kind of things. ESO's quests are boring as shit. But
Oh
like
yeah.
games were like RuneScape where I have to like go talk to an NPC and then I got like a little fucking like D&D campaign I got to go play through where I got to like make choices and there's puzzles and shit. I love that. I think it's super fun. So I have a ton of
Hmm.
fun with those and then I like hardcore grinds for gear. Gear grinds are really fun too. So in like Maple Story, that was like a big thing for me. I didn't like how they did like the dungeon system. It's similar to ESO where you have to like get pulled over with your your party like looking for group thing and that whole bullshit kind of like takes away the whole searching for like a community aspect, but it was
Yeah.
still fun. I still liked it. So I
Yeah.
think just looking
Actually,
for
I
like,
wanted
oh, go ahead.
sorry, I wanted to talk about the story as well because I do agree with that.
Hmm.
Story and lore,
Yeah,
period, is like really important to me as well.
hmm,
I found that when I played Guild Wars 2, I am obsessed with the lore in that game. They did a
yeah,
fantastic job world building. You go to each zone and it's like the zone fits
so
like
pretty.
the world that's going on. Yeah, and it's like these dungeon or sorry, these dragons have risen and now it's like that's why this area is full of like corruption and stuff because of that. And you get to see that, you even get to see like impacts of where a dragon landed and like all of that is really cool when you like are exploring the story and the lore of the game to now be exploring each area and you're like, oh my god, like that's so cool. Like I get
It's
why it
sick.
looks this way. Yeah,
It's so
it's
fucking
not
cool.
just like this generic like, oh, there's snow here, oh,
Yeah,
there's like sunny thing, oh, there's water. Like it's so cool to
yeah.
walk around in a world where like you understand the lore and
That was
why
like
it's
the
like that.
one thing that made me actually like playing WoW was that the lore was actually pretty fucking good. Like all the questing was fucking shit and I didn't like it. I liked listening to them talk. I liked actually exploring, the wiki and stuff. That was fun.
Hmm. And then
Um
of all the MMOs, is there any that you've sunk a lot of time into? Like not just like games
yeah.
that you've played, but ones that like you really dedicate a lot of time to.
Yeah. Top 3 were definitely ESO, RuneScape and MapleStory. Those are like the 3 that I put all my time into growing up. RuneScape and MapleStory a lot more so. ESO was more recent. It was like
Mm.
high school fits of passion. I'd have like 2 or 3 months where I'd play it nonstop. Into
Oh
college, I
shit.
played it as well. And then you kind of caught the tail end of me playing it nonstop again when we fucking picked it up that one time. But
Yeah, for a little
for
bit.
like
It
a
just didn't
week,
really
yeah.
stick.
Yeah, it,
Yeah.
it was just we were like I think we went right back to Valorant afterwards because we hate ourselves, but it's whatever.
I still love Valorant, so
Well, no,
uh
I love Valorant. It's just cock and ball torture getting into a party with fucking randoms.
I love it.
It's
Give
the
me it.
worst. Oh, I love it. But those 3 definitely the highest playtimes, probably upwards of like 4,000 hours in RuneScape. Still not maxed, but that's depressing. Yeah, it's
Okay.
fucking insane. How about you? What are the 2 biggest time
Definitely
sinks or biggest
definitely
time
the
sinks?
Guild Wars genre there,
Yeah.
like both Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 1 was just like the thing that introduced me to
Mm,
MMOs. Outside of RuneScape. I mean, I guess RuneScape kind of introduced me to it, but I feel like I didn't sink enough time into it and I didn't understand enough of it
right.
because when I did play, I was quite young and I was just like, oh, cool, shiny sword,
Yeah.
like I didn't really get it. And then
Yeah.
like once I started playing Guild Wars 1 and like as I kept going, I started kind of like really coming into my own as like a player in
As a
general.
gamer.
Uh, yeah, and I mean like you still see like how it is now whenever I'm playing a new game, I often try and like find ways to make certain things that I like work with me and I always found that like when I played Guild Wars 1, I was constantly just pushing for like a new meta for myself or like I would be like, okay, I really like this class, but I really like this class and you combine the two and then I try and find ways to make it work. I would look at certain abilities that I thought were really cool and I try and make that work. I wasn't necessarily going up to like, the websites and being like, okay, what's the meta builds? Okay, I'm
Right.
gonna follow all of these. Like I really liked exploring new ideas, and I still do that to this day. Even in like New World, I just like finding stuff that works for me, rather than just being a meta slave.
Right.
So that's kind of like what defined it for me, and like what I look for in MMOs since. Um, and yeah, the experience I had with both Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 is like great. I love both of them. I'm not a big fan of like the direction they took it. I understand that they need to make money.
Right.
They didn't go pay to win, but there's like the issue is like they keep adding this content, but then the first content was really cool and exciting, and then they started dumbing it down to just be like, okay, here's some quick little content, and then here's
Oh.
all this extra content you can pay for that's like, cosmetics,
Oh
there's like
yikes.
RNG gamble stuff, and it was just like, like I like
Not what you're looking for.
I don't know. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
the expansion packs just didn't do it for me. There was the first one was just such a mess. Like when I go into a new area, I always liked exploring everything. That's what I loved about Guild Wars 2 is you get rewarded for exploring and seeing every little aspect of each map, and I did that. I have 100% completion on the map. It was super fun. And then when they added the new content, it was like you can only explore about 25%. You got to finish the next area, and then you'll level up certain ways of traveling. Like
Oh
now I
yeah, I
can
remember that. It was like the
travel up
fucking
this. Now
yeah,
I can go down this tube. I can do this. And it was like, so you got to like finish everything like
like
half-assed. Then you
parachute
go
thingy.
back through it, do it again. Then you have to like level up other things, do it again. And I fucking hated it. Like
Yeah.
it was
That's some
so
shit.
shit. Um, but
I
yeah,
get that.
like I just didn't really like the direction they took it. I still played it after the second expansion for quite a bit. Played it with you guys, but I just couldn't stick with it.
Do you think you're gonna pick it
Um,
up again with the next expansion when it releases?
Probably not if
Oh.
New World
Oh,
entices
if
me.
yeah. I forgot that
Yeah,
that game
speaking of which,
exists.
is there any new MMOs that you're looking forward to?
Besides New World, Rito's game, of course,
Mm,
which I
of
haven't
course.
looked up nearly as much as you have about, but
There's not much about
I
it.
know, right? But I still know less. And then the Magic the Gathering MMO, which is supposed to be coming out next couple months. It's supposed or next couple
Oh,
months, next like year or two.
I didn't even know that was happening. That
Yeah,
that sounds
you
interesting.
yeah. So they have really deep lore. Magic the Gathering, I
I know.
fucking love it. It's so good. The Planeswalkers and all that shit is so interesting.
I've heard.
Um, but essentially, it's going to be you're a planeswalker, so you can travel to different planes that the different sets of the game have been from. I don't know if you've ever looked at Magic cards or anything like that. Each of the little icons on the bottom of the cards is a set. Typically, they denote a plane, which is like a world or a being of existence, a realm of existence. And then there's people who
Hmm.
can walk between them. They're called planeswalkers. That's what you are. That's how you're casting the magic and shit. So the MMO is going to be basically you make your own planeswalker. So you make yourself in the game, and then you get to go travel to different realms, like the fucking Amonkhet, which is like this desert realm, and all this other crazy shit. It's gonna be cool.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It seems interesting. From what I've heard about it, the emails I've gotten and the insider shit, but it looks cool. I'm excited. How
Yeah.
about you? Besides
I'm
North.
besides New World. I mean, New World's
I
important.
know it's the one. It's
But
so
yeah,
sick.
basically New World and Riot's new MMO are like the only ones I'm kind of looking forward to.
Yeah,
Um, I've been looking up MMOs for so fucking long. Like, once I played Guild Wars 2, I was hooked for like a while, but it's been so long since like a new MMO has really like caught my attention. I've tried so many of them. Like, I
yeah.
keep trying to find like the next sort of Guild Wars 2 for me. Um, when I played the New World beta, it was great. I'm really looking forward to more, and I think that they have like a great system where you can keep adding more content. Be really easy and smooth. Just keep adding more weapons, more zones for the map. New World's gonna be great. Uh, Riot, honestly, like everything they pumped out has been fantastic. I have no complaints with any Riot game. Um, I played League of Legends for a lot of time. I don't think I've played as much as you, but both of us have played a lot of hours into
I don't want to talk
League.
about
I have like
it.
over 2,000 or something like that hours. Like I got a lot.
Yeah, I have way too
Uh,
many, and I'm still silver. I fucking hate myself.
yeah, and so I think Riot's MMO is pretty important, and we're gonna actually talk about that in one of the upcoming podcasts.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a special guest, hopefully.
Mhm.
Um, And yeah, so we want to talk about that game a little bit more. So we'll get into that in the
Mm.
next one. Um,
Do a real deep dive on Riot MMO or what
yeah.
we
So
have.
speaking of like a lot of games that we've been playing, like a lot of MMOs we kind of touch and they
Mhm.
just kind of like fizzle out for us. Is there any reason you think a lot of new MMOs aren't like able to succeed and why all the ones that are succeeding are very old MMOs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure why like they just fail. Uh I feel like it's just a mix of people like not wanting to shell out to buy like the new flavor of the month MMO every fucking 6 months that developers keep pushing out. I feel like every 2 weeks on my Steam like premium pass or like the Discover Weekly or whatever the fuck it is, Discovery Queue, I get like a new Black Desert Online clone like every 2 weeks and it's like holy shit. It's just annoying to see. So I feel like a lot of it is just there's too many copy paste. It's just a lack of diversity. So it's just people just not trying to develop something interesting, and then they just fail because of
Yeah.
course it's gonna fail. If you make fucking Mario Kart 9000, you know, like no one's gonna want to buy it except for the people who only play Mario Kart. You know,
Yeah.
so that's just my opinion about it. How about you?
Yeah.
Why do you think that they fail? What spurns the death of a new anime, a new MMO for you?
Well, speaking
Yeah.
of animes, no, I find like one of the biggest killers of the genre in general, and like for most MMOs, is the pay to win aspect and the pay for convenience.
Right.
Um, it's a big deterrent for me. If I open up a new MMO, oftentimes the free to play ones, even ones that I pay, like $40 for, and then you start getting into it, you get past like the noob area, and then you start understanding some of the systems.
Mhm.
One in particular would be ESO. Even though it's not necessarily like pay to win, there's a lot of pay for convenience, which I kind of clump the two together. So if I wanted to craft something, which I wanted to get into the crafting system, I heard it was a good system, and then I started getting some of the materials. I started trying to craft, and then it's like, oh, you have to wait like an hour.
Yeah.
And then if I wanted to upgrade my horse, I have to wait like an hour or whatever,
Yeah,
and
you
it
wait
keeps getting like
24 hours, then you can do your next upgrade.
exponentially longer. And it's like, I'm not gonna sit here for a fucking day. And it's like they're like, well, you can pay some money, give us
Mhm.
some real money, we'll
Give
speed that
us
up for you.
$5. I'll finish that. You have a
And I'm like,
faster horse.
I already paid for the game. I don't want to have to pay to speed this up. So I think a lot of games, what they do is they essentially create the system and then add a hindrance to it, make the system fundamentally worse, and then charge you the solution. And
Yeah.
it's fucking horrible. And I think like it's a big thing that's killing the genre in general because so
Straight up
many people
creating a
that
problem for
don't,
themselves.
yeah, so many people that don't even play MMOs will come and try out MMOs and then be
Oh,
very annoyed
what the
with a
fuck
lot of
just
those
happened?
systems. What? I don't know what that was.
I'm so scared. What the
Did the
fuck
light
was
just turn
I
off?
don't know. No, the light turned brighter and this one went
Oh,
off over here. And the one on
shit.
top of the camera just brightened up. Ooh,
Spooky.
spooky. I'm scared. I don't like this. The scuffed podcast. Oh
But
man.
yeah, I think pay to win, pay for convenience is like a big issue, and even the smallest ones kind of kill it. Pay to win's the biggest thing. I mean, if you go into a new MMO and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I literally can't beat these people in PvP because they have a bigger wallet than me. Well, fuck this, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
so many people leave. I've heard that from so many people. Blade and Soul was one of them. I was playing Blade and Soul for a little bit when it came out, and then it was pay to win, and I was like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
And I just I'm really against a developer creating a game and then making systems in that game just fundamentally worse, just straight up bad systems just to charge you the solution. It's really bad practice, and I think that's what kills a lot of games. Another thing is like as a game progresses, the skill floor goes up. So if you're trying to get into a new MMO, people have already figured out how all the dungeons work, what the best meta builds are, and even in PvP, people have figured out a lot of stuff. So the older a game gets, if you're a new player to it, it's really hard to get into because you can't be as like free with what you want to do. You're already like being like, no, you can't play that way. You're supposed to play this way. And I find a lot of games that force metas end up being that way.
Right.
Um, so yeah, having like the skill floor kind of going up too much is always a problem. Um, and then another thing is like as an MMO gets bigger, they add tons more expansions, they add more areas to explore, they add more content. Oftentimes it doesn't mean the population is getting big enough to fill all of those slots. All that means is that the population is now just instead of being more spread out, they're very condensed on all this new content because they
Right.
want you to explore this. They want you to do these new dungeons and new raids. So when you are getting into a new MMO, if you're coming a bit late, everyone's already on to the next thing. Everyone's already focused on certain things, so it's hard to find people to play with. And so you end up going into games feeling like, oh, it kind of feels dead, like what's going on.
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like if you're going to expand the world, you need to understand that you need to make sure things feel populated everywhere. That way, people can still find other people to play with and
Right.
still find a community. Because, like I said before, community is a very important thing to an MMO. Um, yeah, I think that's kind of all I really have to say about that.
Why do you think so many games turn to pay to win in that case? Like, what spurns them to just be like, ah, fuck it, I'm just gonna try and shell out
Uh,
for money instead of just fucking making something good?
well, I think most developers, when it comes to the MMO genre in general, we have like games that are so old that are succeeding. There's not a lot of new ones that are succeeding. So you have a very large portion of gamers basically just sitting there being like, when's the next one coming? Like, when's the next
Right.
good MMO coming? And so I think a lot of developers know that they can just pump out shitty games, have a bunch of like clickbait, rather like whatever, like, just be like, oh look how cool this
Summer
shit is.
bikini skins.
Yeah,
Look
yeah. Look at these big titty
at
anime
these fucking
girls.
tits. Yeah. Get in here,
and
baby. Ara
and
ara.
so I think they just kind of like advertise the game as this amazing thing and then make it pay to win just so that they can cater to all of the whales that want to come in and be like, "Oh, I'm going to be the best player in this brand
Yeah.
new MMO by spending all of my cash."
Yeah.
And
Like
then
Pokemon
developers
Unite.
just developers just succeed because they're getting tons of money from all of these people that are like, "Yeah, I want to be the best.
Yeah.
Take all my money, pay to win."
Take my
Um
money, daddy.
and
Step
then
on me.
those games almost always just die out and then nobody plays it and
Right.
then, you know,
They're there for
they're
a
just there
month.
to
They made their 10 grand and the game fucking dies. Great.
yeah. And so it
Fantastic.
sucks for the players, but that's what developers are doing.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then on the other side of the spectrum, what about subscriptions? Do you like subscriptions or no? Not necessarily pay to
um
win, but I mean, like we were talking about ESO or RuneScape. I mean, did you pay for membership back when you used RuneScape at all? Or like expanded bank
I
space and shit?
have never paid for a monthly subscription on any game ever and I refuse to.
Paid
Um
so many.
I know a lot of people have.
I'm
The
such a
thing is
fucking
like
idiot.
I I have I played so many different games and I still do. I'm a variety type of player. I
Right.
love dipping my toes in a bunch of different genres, playing a bunch of
Love
things.
toes.
So I love toes. Lick them all day. So if I'm gonna be the one who's like playing a bunch of different games, I can't justify spending like $15 a month on this game when I'm only gonna, maybe play
Yeah.
10 hours a month or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like I'm not getting my money's worth. And so I just can't do it. And anytime that I do spend money on if I were to spend money on a subscription fee, sorry, I feel like I would almost feel like I have to play that game. And it's like, well, I'm wasting my money if I don't play it for that month. And I
Right.
think that's where they kind of get a lot of people. And I think that's why WoW has been so hard to kill because you have people who've spent thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of fucking dollars playing that over tens. I mean, I think it's 15 plus years old at this. I
Something like that.
can't
I
remember.
remember talking about WoW in my first grade class, which was what, 19 years ago or something like that. Almost. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think obviously it's good. They've made tons of money and it's working because people are still playing those. Like there's Final Fantasy and there's WoW. Those are some of the two most popular MMOs right now and people still play it. So clearly it is a good thing because the developers make money and a lot of people are okay with it. That also means the developers can focus on just making quality content rather than trying to find ways to milk their player base. They know that their player base is already paying, so just give them content and they'll be happy. So it is good and bad for me.
Mhm.
I can't justify it and I will never pay for a
Right.
subscription fee. In Guild Wars 2, I actually spent quite a bit of money just buying cosmetics because I love the game and I put in like over
Right.
2,000 hours, so I want to support the developers and I'm like, sure, $20 here and there, I don't feel too bad.
I
And
like
at least I'm
cosmetic
getting something
shops.
out of it. Yeah.
Cosmetic shops are awesome in games typically. I just don't like I've played too many subscription games at this point where I can't say that I don't like subscription games because I've just fucking dumped way too much money into them, you know?
Yeah.
Like RuneScape, I totally get how you feel about the whole fucking like if I'm paying for the subscription, I feel like I'm wasting my money. I logged into my account today on RuneScape for the first time in like fucking 2 months. And I felt so bad because I knew in like the back of my head I was like I wasted $22 to not play this. It's
Yeah.
like fuck. But I mean,
I'm a frugal type of person too,
yeah,
so it's like just who I am.
it's one of those things where like I feel like they've gotten too standard and people are starting to like ramp them up. Like back in the day, RuneScape membership was $5. Now it's $11. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like yeah, inflation, whatever. But still, it's like you shouldn't have to fucking like I'm still paying this shit for the past 5 years, 12 months, a year. Like, you're getting your money. You don't need to charge me this fucking much. Or like a lifetime subscription, maybe even. Oh wait, that's the price of the fucking game you buy. Kind of sucks. I don't know. I like them when they have a reason to be there. I felt like they used to, but now they don't. You know, I
Yeah.
feel like back in the day when there was like a lot of people buying, membership in RuneScape or like AQ and shit like that. It was just out of necessity. It was out of like their parents just being like, "Oh, I got $5 to spend." And now it's just developed in this thing where everyone's been like, "Oh, we've been doing it for 10 years. Might as well keep it there."
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to development, I know like subscription fees really do help developers continuously develop the game
Yeah.
rather than kind of having to find ways of finding cosmetics. But does that mean do you think that like players have too high of expectations or too low of expectations on the developers? Because
Hmm.
I know a lot of people don't want subscription fees. Some people, when they're paying for subscription fees, almost want so much from the
Right.
developers. They're like, I'm paying all this, keep giving me shit.
I
And
feel
I think
like
that comes with like a lot of the premium
yeah.
subscriptions too.
I feel like me as a player, I put a very high expectations on developers when I'm paying, especially if I'm paying for their product. Like if it's a free
Hmm.
game, I'm not going to have very high expectations because it's a free game. It's
Yeah.
not supposed to be. But if it's like something I'm paying for, a subscription I'm paying for, I'm gonna have high expectations because I'm paying for a product. I want it to be good. I want to enjoy it, you know. But I feel like that is sort of like a failure of my own self at this point because I've played so many single player RPGs. When I go into an MMO and I have such high expectations for the game, I'm doing myself a disservice because I feel like most MMOs are, clunky or off because of that. Because I'm so used to having that first, that single player RPG experience. And then I log into an MMO expecting a similar feel. And it's not because that's not how the games are. It's a totally different system, And that usually screws myself over. But sometimes I feel like I can have pretty realistic expectations. I feel like I had realistic ones for New World. I'm getting them met pretty okay so far.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you think? Do players have high or low?
I think when it comes to like MMORPG players, I think they definitely have too low of expectations. Um, I just find that like so many games right now, like even ones that have decent reviews, are just unfinished games.
Right.
Even like one of the most recent ones, Bless Unleashed, it came with mixed reviews. So it's like 50% of people think it's a good game, and I'm baffled that people think that it's like an acceptable
Yikes.
game. I played it. I couldn't even get to level 3. It crashed 3 times before that.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
I run almost every game on like low settings. I'm all about pushing my frames and making sure my experience is smooth. Um, it was rough, and
Wasn't ready.
yeah, it should have stayed unleashed. Okay.
Oh. Jesus. Stupid.
Unreleased.
Unreleased. I don't know.
Um, yeah. So it just sort of like it sucks because a lot of people end up finding that okay. People end up going on the forums trying to justify it, being like, no, it's okay, it's this. You get so many people being like, oh well, I mean, most releases are kind of bad. It's like, yeah,
Right.
well,
They don't have to
like why are we
be.
settling for that?
Yeah,
Like,
why are they? Because
I
you
mean, back
fucking
in the
let
day
them be bad.
whenever a new game came out, it was ready. Like, there was the odd patch here and there
Yeah.
was the odd glitch, but like the games were ready. And I understand that like the technology has gotten more complex and there's more
Yeah.
things to fuck up, but like
When I
a lot
went
of
and
these
bought
games are in development
Ninja
for so
Gaiden
many
Sigma,
years.
break my fucking PlayStation.
Yeah. So I just think people need to have, even higher expectations. People like accept pay to win. There's still like so many pay to win games where people still play it without actually paying, and it's like they know it sucks, but they're still playing it. Even like pay for convenience stuff, like people just kind of accept that as like a way of the game. They're like, oh, that's just how it is. Like, yeah, I spend, money here and there to speed up my progress. Or like, oh yeah, I'm buying all these XP boosts
Yeah.
because I spend too much time working and I don't have enough time to like catch up to these people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm paying for a speed boost. It's like, no,
Cheating.
like your experience should be enjoyable no matter what. Like if they're making the experience shit just to like charge you for,
Yeah.
XP boosts and extra inventory space because the inventory space is so fucking small that like you need to pay for it
Yep. And if you do,
before
yeah,
it
well,
becomes convenient.
you can sign up for our subscription. We'll give you full inventory space. You have free auto
Yeah,
sorting bags too. It's like, what
exactly.
the
It's like
fuck?
these are great systems to have in the game. Just give it to us.
Just
Like
have it
it,
there
it,
normally.
and now it's like you have to pay all this extra money to get all this stuff that should have just been in the game already. And people just kind of have that like really low expectation where they're like, "Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Here,
normal.
here, Mr. Development Man. Yes,
Right in there.
please." It's like fucking why, dude?
Yes, Todd Howard. Yes.
Yeah. Stop getting fucked over by developers and start demanding a better product, and we might be somewhere better with MMOs. But
Yeah.
like
Unionize the gamers. Come
that's why so
on.
many old games are still the most popular because nobody's wanting something better, and everyone's just accepting the shitty old ways.
Yeah. Crazy. Why do you think fucking
Uh,
old school RuneScape's blowing back up again? Because everyone realizes how shitty the game is, and they're like, "Wow, that sounds great.
yeah.
I want to play something terrible."
And like games haven't changed too much in a lot of different ways. Even like the leveling system, like I find a lot of the leveling system in MMOs still suck. Like almost any game, everyone will be like, "Oh, just once you hit max level, that's when the game starts." Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the leveling system, like it sucks, but you just gotta get through it."
Yeah,
That's why a lot of people end
one
up
to 60
paying
is
to
really
speed it up.
boring, but afterwards it gets really fun. I promise. Like
Yeah.
all the content's after 60. The
And,
fuck?
and even
Why?
it's always revolving around the leveling system. There's also that whole argument that like, oh, the game's gonna get good after like 50 hours, after 100 hours is when I started enjoying it. It's like, then why does it suck?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think like the leveling system in like the early game of MMOs always suck?
I feel like it's just been the same rehashed D&D character sheet that's been around forever and no one really tries new things.
The same D&D. I mean,
Like
that's kind of true.
it's
It's just
it's
like
fucking
different
strength,
names.
constitution, wisdom, intelligence, dexterity. That's fucking it. That's all you get. Fucking figure it out. Put in your points and then go grab a weapon that coincides with that stat and now you have your game. Have fun. And then there's some games that take it and make it weird. What's a good example of it? Fucking Torchlight looks like fucking Final Fantasy X with its leveling system. It's like a giant sphere orb bullshit. You gotta like select individual little nodes to get different bonuses, and each bonus gives you like +3 damage or +400 life. Or it's the same fucking thing.
I haven't
Instead of
seen that.
having a character sheet, you just have a giant bubble. Like it's the same thing. I don't fucking understand, man. Like
Yeah.
I I like the idea of a game that is just baseline for all the characters, and then it's like full skill blade, like full skill based or something like that. Like there's level base or like gear base where you can get like higher armor values or higher damage values, but like everyone still has 10 HP. You know,
Yeah.
everyone still has like 50 strength or whatever. But your gear can get better or whatever gets better. Just it's try something new. I think is the issue that everyone's just been
Yeah.
doing the same leveling system forever.
I think like one way that they should improve on it because I think the leveling system that we have is like just thing has
Oh,
been improved on.
we
Oh,
almost crashed. We're good. All right, good.
oh.
We
I
had a
was
stutter.
like,
You
oh
you
no,
stuttered again. We're okay.
error number three.
Yeah. Well.
Um, yeah, so I think a better way to make the leveling system work is to kind of remove leveling normally, but allow us to work towards the progression that we want.
Hmm,
So let's say you take um like a freeform character not necessarily tied to a specific profession or class or whatever,
sure.
and you're like, okay, I want to learn fire magic. So now you start using fire spells, start collecting resources to craft new spells or whatever. Like the progression that you want is something you can work towards rather than, oh, just do generic fetch quests until you get to this level and now you have unlocked this. Like it would be cool to know that like whatever I'm working towards um is something that I can do directly, and then that way the leveling system in general is more exciting because you know that like, oh, I can go and do these quests which are going to give me this reward,
Hmm.
and you can kind of work towards it rather than all these rewards always being like, oh, you get a big gold, you get this weapon that doesn't fucking matter at all.
Yeah.
At least we could work towards what we want. Um, that's why I kind of like RuneScape's aspect of like leveling up your skills. Same with like New World. Like if I want to go level up my um wood cutting or whatever, I just go out and cut trees. Like I kind of
Yeah.
like, the
Go do
direction
whatever the
of
fuck I
like,
want.
yeah, if this is something I want, I'm gonna go and work towards it rather than like the leveling system is just this generic like you're gonna have to hit max level eventually. Just fucking suck it up. But
Right.
that's how it always is. It's like why can't we just always be like max level? There be no level. But then it's like if you wanna, let's say in New World, or sorry, let's just take like any generic game. If you want to like level up this weapon, go out and use it. Kind of like the Skyrim's way of like, the more you use this weapon, the more powerful it gets.
Yeah.
I love that system. It kind of like encourages you to play the way that you want to play rather than just being like, okay, this has better stats. I'll use
Yeah.
that until I get the next higher level thing.
Or bigger.
Yeah, I just like being able to work towards the thing that I like rather than, just kind of have to mindlessly grind eventually to get to the good stuff.
Yeah. I don't like that in most MMOs. I feel like you end up in this weird state in the first like 10 to 20 levels where every
Hmm.
single item you get is an upgrade and every single item
Yeah,
you're grabbing is replacing your old gear. So it just
yeah.
becomes this really shitty system of like you're never locking down any sort of play style in the early game. So I feel like a lot of the time players become like disenfranchised in the first like 20 levels of their level up experience. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what the fuck I want to do, and then they just stop playing. Like what I did with Guild Wars. I started playing the what was it, the fucking engineer, and I did like 20 levels of it, and I was like, fuck this, and then I got the premium pack fucking level boost so we could go do PvP and I could enjoy myself. I was like, fuck
Well, I mean, PvP,
this.
you're already level 60, so you
Well, I
don't have
wanted
to
to do
like,
the raid content and stuff with you as well, like do all the fucking dungeons or whatever they were called. I forget,
yeah, yeah.
shards or whatever. To do that stuff as
Oh,
well.
yeah, fractals.
Yeah, those. To do that stuff, I
Yeah.
had to be level 60. So it's like, whatever. Might as well just fucking level up and try it. And
Yeah, it does suck because like a lot of it is just like okay, I gotta wait for my buddy to get level 60
right,
when you invite somebody new to a game. So um, just allowing them to come in and it's like sure they don't have all of the options like, but they have enough options to be completely viable to go into it. Like give
yeah,
them
that'd be sweet.
um a basic amount of abilities to fill their ability bar for each type of like way to play, and then if they want to expand and get the other ability that works in a way that they prefer or blah 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 blah. You can work towards that. It makes a lot more sense just giving us the freedom to kind
Yeah.
of build the character we want right off the bat rather than just kind of the whole like okay replace. It's boring as fuck. I
Yeah.
hate playing like loot simulators as well.
I like I like how I would love to see a leveling system sort of akin to Dark Souls or like a difficulty system into Dark Souls in an MMO. I think that'd be really cool. Where as you progress through the storyline or as you get further into the deeper into the world, a new world, let's say further north you go, um, it's not necessarily the game's getting any harder. Like when I play Dark Souls, if you played the game correctly, if you're leveling up with the regions and you're doing it right, the game should feel really linear. That's how the game's
Mm.
designed. Is you're supposed to have like a simple, you're supposed to have like the same difficulty challenge the entire way through. And if you're leveling up wrong, it's going to get really hard and it's going to get really easy in some parts. I think it'd be really cool to have a game like an MMO where, the first area, the enemies will three shot you, right? But by the end of the game, the final boss is still going to three shot you, but, the first area's bosses are still going to do like two damage to you. I feel like a lot of games just become this weird, like, oh, I'm 5 levels over this area, and now there's no reason for me to be here whatsoever, and I don't
Mm.
like that. Like when I'm playing Dark Souls, I can go to the old towns, I can go to like an older area, and I can still farm souls and stuff because it's not that the difficulty has gotten easier as I've gone on. It's always been hard as fuck. It's just gotten slightly better equipment. I've gotten slightly more levels, so I'm doing a little bit more damage, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like I'm chunking the shit out of it because the scale is so small. but it feels big and it feels good. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it'd be cool to see that in MMO.
I think the only like MMO that I've enjoyed the leveling system was Guild Wars 2. It still had its issue of going to 1 to 60 or whatever.
Right.
But what I liked is that like each you scale to each area you're in. So when I was like level 60 coming to help other people, I would get scaled down, so
Hmm.
I'm like less powerful.
Right.
Um, I like that, and I also like that you can level in whatever way you want. You could go into world versus world right from the beginning, and start fighting other players. You can go into PvP and do a bunch of PvP while you're max level, and then you get like these little tomes to level up.
Yeah.
So you can essentially level your PvE character just doing PvP. You can just explore the world and not even like kill anything, and you get XP. Like everything gives you good XP, which felt nice because then it's like you don't feel like you have to do these generic fetch quests. So that's why,
Right.
like I said, I would literally go into an area and do everything because I liked it.
Hmm.
I didn't feel like I had to do this generic repetitive quest. I could keep doing a variety of different things in
Right.
each area, and I'm getting XP and leveling up everything. Whereas I feel like in a lot of other games, it's like if you want to try and do this, sure, but you're kind of hindering yourself from leveling, and you have to get level 60 before the game is fun.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of the games feel like. So
It's like RuneScape. Until you hit total level like 2K, you're not actually playing the game. And total level 2K takes way too fucking long if you don't know what you're doing.
yeah.
um, sort of a off-topic one, but what do you think about PvP? Do you think it's needed in most games? Do you think like games are failing because they don't include a full PvP system?
Um. Well, both of us are kind of excited for Blue Protocol
Hmm.
coming up in the future.
Yeah.
It's not like one of the main MMOs that I'm looking forward to or looking towards. It's mainly just New World and Riot's MMO because I know they're gonna have PvP.
Right.
Blue Protocol doesn't have PvP, but it just looks like some good casual fun to
Yeah.
have with some buddies while we're waiting for the next kind of big thing. Um, but yeah, it's essentially a big MMO, anime style, or anime art style. It isn't supposed to have PvP. They haven't mentioned that they're going to be doing PvP, but the combat system looks really fun, so they
Mhm.
definitely could. But I think it would just be fun to, like group up and do some like casual, um, PvE content, push through a lot of the story together, do like little dungeons, whatever. Like all that sounds fun. Like, I mean, you and I play tons of games together. We have our little group there. We play like whatever game is fun.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be PvP for me. It's just fun to play with friends.
Yeah.
Um, but the thing is, like, a lot of those games eventually die out for us. The main things that kind of have always hooked us and make us play a lot is always PvP
Yep.
and something with competition because eventually you finish the story or eventually you
Yeah.
finish enough of the same, generic go in here, kill these enemies, and then you're done. Eventually you get all the gear that you want if you're going for that. Eventually the PvE content comes to a halt where you kind of get bored, at least for us since we're more competitive players. Um, so I think it does and it doesn't. I think if you want it to be the next big MMO, if you want it to be like a very big success, you kind of need PvP because all the big ones do. If you want to take those players, you kind of need to take the PvP players as well. Most MMOs, I would say, like almost everybody's going to dip their toes into PvP anyways, whether they do it full time or not, whatever. But PvP is always nice to have as an option.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think it is needed to be a big success, but it isn't needed to just sell copies. And you can certainly leave out PvP if needed. What about
Yeah.
you?
I feel like PvP deserves to be in like every game, just for the nature of competitive spirit, just for the nature of it being a game. I feel like that's just the fun of it. Um, even like a lot of like single player storyline games, I would love to just have like a weird little like multiplayer PvP mode or some shit like in there, as like a fun little Easter egg. Like even if it's not fleshed out, I just think it's fun to have like a even couch co-op things. Like a big thing when I was growing up, um, was just like going to store and buying like random little shitty games, um, with my dad. And a lot of the time we would just get like random little 2v2, 1v1 like little shitter games, and they were really fun. Um, and I feel like a lot of players look for that. Like they just look for, their fun little I'm gonna go in against other people. I don't really give a shit about a quest line or storyline thing. I feel like
Yeah,
not including a PvP system, you're just excluding so many players. Even if they're not, a majority of a player base nowadays, it's still people you should be including. and it's just a huge detriment to all games, not just MMOs. Not includes the PvP aspect.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think about the Holy Trinity? Do you think that's needed video games? Tank, DPS, heal.
Um, no, I'm kind of just sick of the Holy Trinity.
Hmm.
So, this was a big change from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2, which I fucking loved. They had some really big hiccups with doing this. It took them a while to finally get to a point where um it's in a better balance state. So to explain this a little bit, because I think this says a lot to the whole Holy Trinity.
Hmm.
Um, in Guild Wars 1, the Holy Trinity was always the thing. There was always the monk, which was the healer. Always needed a monk. Then you need some sort of tank, which is usually warrior, and then everything else is just sort of DPS. And there was missions that you could do, which were 8 people. So when I first played it, I was playing it when the game was just starting out, and I would push through to um, get all of the missions done, like as everybody else was doing it. It was kind of this nice flow to it. Then the expansions came out. I did all those, and some kind of going through the world at the same pace that everybody else is. And then my brother ended up deleting my character because we
Fuck.
we shared we shared an account.
That sucks.
I paid for half of the game. Actually, it was a bit less than half of the game, and all I wanted was my one character. So I had
Mm.
my one character, and then later on, he decided he want all of the character slots, which I think there was like 8 or something.
What a
So he
fucker.
wanted all 8, and he wouldn't even let me have one. So he deleted mine and then gave me back the money. And I was like, "What the like? That's not how that works, like, dude." And
Hey,
so
thanks for that 2,000 hours of your life. Here's your $5 back, kid.
yeah, I was
It's
like,
like,
"Fuck
what the
off."
fuck?
And then eventually I end up getting a character back because my dad was like, "No, that's not allowed." So I
Yeah.
made another character, decided to make an assassin this time because I originally made a ranger. And yeah, I was doing all these missions over again, and it was dead. Like almost every mission was dead, and I was like, "But like, how do I do them?" Like,
Hmm.
and then obviously if I'm queuing for DPS, it's like there's such a small amount of people doing each one of these missions, and it took forever to finish them. And so trying to progress through the story was a fucking nightmare. I ended up doing like weird strats where you end up having less people, or you use these like heroes to kind of get by. Um, but yeah, so um, having that like even in today's like when it comes to WoW, like if you're a DPS, good fucking luck. You're waiting forever
Yeah.
unless you have like a dedicated group. Um, so it's hard to explore and do a lot of different stuff if you're forcing the Holy Trinity on a big player base. And so when it went to Guild Wars 2, they removed the Holy Trinity and they were like, everybody is going to be a self-sufficient healer. So everybody is a dedicated heal spell. You can also get like extra healing in certain areas here and there, or whatever life steal. And so it was more about like not necessarily everybody is DPS, but everybody is kind of their own thing. If you wanted to be a bit more tanky, and do less DPS, you can do that, and then you try and like force the enemy to attack you a little bit more. Um, but there wasn't like a dedicated tank. There wasn't a dedicated DPS. There wasn't a dedicated healer. It was just kind of like whatever class you are, you're self-sufficient. Just as
Yeah.
long as you coordinate, attack the same targets, do stuff. And I really like that, but it really quickly devolved into okay, you have to be a warrior and full DPS because this is the most efficient way of DPSing. It's the highest DPS in
Mm.
the game, and it also is one of the tankier natural classes because it wears heavy. So you just have all warriors, all full DPS using the same build in every dungeon. And sometimes people wouldn't even like consider you if you weren't a warrior. Some were a little bit more lenient, but some of like the sweaties is like no, only warriors, and it sucked because I was a ranger in Guild Wars 2, and it was like, well, now I can't do like any of these dungeons unless it's with a more casual group, which I was totally fine with, and I ended up playing with a lot more casuals because of it. Um, but yeah, so trying to push away from the Holy Trinity kind of bit them in the ass because then it was like, okay, well then it's only DPS and we're just gonna
Right.
find whatever maximizes the DPS and then that's it. Eventually, they got to balancing the game more. They made conditions more viable. They started adding um, mechanics where you kind of break a bar, which is like based on CC. Then you get like this attack of opportunity. So bringing in people that could do a lot of CC was really important rather than just simply DPS. They nerfed the warrior a bit, and they've done a fantastic job to now every single class actually is viable in a lot of these dungeons. And um, when it comes down to raids, there's more dedicated groups of like certain roles, and now there's a tons of builds. Like if you want to be DPS, there's tons of builds. If you want to be a healer, there's tons of builds. If you want to be like this, there's actually tons of builds that they have online. There's like all these meta builds.
Yeah.
So it eventually devolved back into some sort of Holy Trinity-esque system.
Mm.
But there's definitely a wider range of it. But for the rest of the content, outside of the hardest PvE content, which is the raids, you can totally just play however you want. And I love that
Yeah.
because I never felt like who I'm playing is now hindering me from enjoying the game. And I think pushing away from the Holy Trinity is really important. It's been shown that you can do it. I just find it's a bit challenging because it's such a standard that everybody knows, okay, if
Right.
you just add healer, tank, DPS, people will figure it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I don't think it's needed. But I do think it's a challenge, and I would encourage developers to push away from the Holy Trinity in the future.
Yeah. I think it's a fun. I think it's a really good design experiment for a lot of different games. That could be done is just not having the same bullshit as everyone
Uh,
else. I feel like what you were saying with Guild Wars 2, throwing in utility into kits for classes that don't necessarily have them in that class in the first place, like assassins with healing, is really fun for gameplay. It can make it really interesting, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people could benefit from if they just implement it a little bit more. I agree. I think that the Holy Trinity should be tried to be done away with, but maybe not necessarily just kicked to the curb on the next release of whatever game, you know.
yeah.
Ugh. But final note for developers: what do you think they can do with their future titles to grow the genre?
Um, I think one issue is every single developer is always trying to be the next WoW.
Mm,
And you hear that in like every single YouTube video about
right.
every fucking MMO
This
ever.
is the next
Yeah.
World of Warcraft. This is a Fortnite killer. This is
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
fucking Christ.
It's the Fortnite killer, it's the WoW killer, it's the CS:GO killer, it's the fucking whatever, like shut the fuck up and just be the next good
Yeah,
game.
just
Like
make a
who
game.
you don't have to kill another game in order to like be a success. And I think that's a huge issue that like people have. Like that's a mentality everyone always kind of talks about. And they always try and make comparisons when there's a new MMO. Like
Hmm.
take Ashes of Creation. They're like, oh, it's a lot like WoW because there's like these mounts, it's the tab targeting, it's this system. Like they're constantly comparing and showing like people like, look how similar it is to WoW, but we're doing it better. And it's like
Hmm.
you're not gonna steal the WoW player base. Like you might
Right.
get some people, but like the WoW player base
They
is a
didn't even know you
dedicated
made that
group.
game.
Yeah. They've been playing that same game for so long, and trying to pull them away from it is fucking hard as shit. It's
Yeah.
like giving a fucking man crack for 15 years and then being like,
For real.
all right, now give us
You
your
come
crack. He's
here.
like, what? No, no,
You
that's
give
my
it back.
crack.
Yeah.
So I mean, fucking good luck. But
Yeah.
I
WoW
think
gamers are the biggest Stockholm syndrome gamers that exist in fucking the gaming
honestly though, they've
sphere
been playing
today.
the same
It's
game for
terrifying.
so long. It's like how do you make them stop? I'm
And it's
sorry, it's
fun.
not gonna happen.
It's fun talking with
Um,
them too because they're always like, "No, come on, do the raid with me. It's really fun." I'm like,
yeah,
"Fuck
just try it out.
no! Come on,
Try
just
it
try it.
out.
Just try
Come,
it.
come
Come
back.
on, just one hit. Come on." It's like, no, dude, I'm not doing it. Oh man.
Yeah. WoW is like a big reason why I think a lot of games fail in general in
Hmm.
MMOs because everyone's trying to WoW and they're like, well, if WoW has this, then let's do it as well. It's like,
Right.
no, don't do that.
No,
um,
you don't need to
I
do
think
that at all.
I think you can kind of look at what the gaming trends are now and just try to consider what was out when that game came out.
Mm,
Um, you can look at like Fortnite and PUBG. Like
right.
those games were really big for the time, and what was out? There wasn't battle royales.
No,
Like
we had Call
PUBG
of
came out when
Duty.
we had no battle royale,
Yeah.
and so it's
Oh
like they
well,
they
there was
invented something new.
fucking what was it? H1Z1 or whatever. I think that was like the
Well,
only one that existed as like the only like
it was like that. Like PUBG is based off of like the person who made the original like Arma mod
yeah, yeah,
for DayZ or whatever. I can't remember if that was it, but like
something weird like that.
he was the one who invented it, and then he eventually made it into a full game, but it was originally a mod,
Mm.
similar to DayZ and
Gotcha,
everything.
gotcha.
Um, Yeah, even like when Minecraft came out, there was nothing like it. And now we have tons of Minecraft clones.
Yep.
WoW, when it came out, we didn't really have too much like it. And now it's like everyone's trying to emulate it. It's like you got to think of like what was around when these games came out. There was nothing like it. So it's like if you want to be the next big game, be the next fucking game. Stop trying to be the game that has already existed forever, but slightly better. That's not how you like succeed in this field because a lot of people aren't going to give up the game that they've been dedicated to for so long for a slight
Yeah.
improvement. That's just like that's not really the case unless they're fed up with the game. But it's like obviously people have been playing that for 15 years. They're not fed up with it. They're quite content.
Yeah, I've been
Um,
playing League for fucking 10 years now. You can tell me Dota's good, but I'm never gonna fucking touch it. Sorry.
Ooh, that's a fantastic example. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I picked up League as well for like ever, and I have tons of hours, and I've been playing that for a long time. And yeah, I've been told so many times like, "Oh, Dota's the better game." I've tried it. I'm like, no,
I
I'm
haven't
good.
even tried it. I just know that I'm not going to at any point. I'm like, fuck, I
I
can't.
I I
I've
I
been
gave it
damaged.
I gave it a try, but I'm like, no, I just want to go and play League. I'm good. And okay, bye.
It's weird. We're
And that was kind
creatures
of
of
like a lot of
habits.
MMOs. That was a lot of MMOs when it came to Guild Wars 2 as well. Like when I played ESO, people love ESO, but I'm
Hmm.
like, I just want to go play Guild Wars 2. This is just Guild Wars 2 but worse because
Hmm.
I'm happy with the way Guild Wars 2 is. So I think when you're developing a game, stop trying to be like a game because people are just like, oh, this is just a slightly different game that I already love, so
Yeah,
I'm good.
I've already
Takes,
played
but
this.
no,
I'm okay. I'll go play the real
yeah.
one instead, where I'm already max level. Why would I want to level up again?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think like if you're gonna make an MMO, just make it different. Just try and make it a different experience. Um, instead of making the leveling system the exact same as every other one, try and do something different, like I was mentioning before. That's why I think like New World is actually a game that's really important to pay attention to
Yeah.
because they're actually doing things that are quite different. They have a map where people can own certain sections of that map and now control the way that the settlement is,
Mhm.
govern it with taxes, and I think that's something that people need to consider and be like, oh fuck, this is actually quite
Yeah,
different.
the
It
structures
really
inside
isn't.
of that settlement, the world, the server, every server is going to be a different world. It is going to feel
Yeah,
completely different based on who controls what section of what map. It's fucking cool. It's such a cool
yeah.
concept. I'm really excited to see how it plays out
A-
over the next like six
and
months.
And the PvP element of it is actually quite different than a lot of MMOs. It's not tab target.
Mhm.
It's more actiony, but it's not like, you know, the smooth kind of like
Black
transition
Desert
between tab
Online,
target and whatever.
dodging. It's not highlighted areas where you're dodging a highlighted area. It's more
Yeah,
reminiscent of like uh I don't
Dark
know.
Souls
Dark
light
Souls. Yeah, Dark
basically.
Souls Light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
And
Can go with
and it's
that.
cool in an MMO being able
Mhm.
to like just roam around and like just randomly spot someone from a different faction that's PvP flagged and you're like, I'm gonna go kill that person. I
Oh
hate
yeah,
that
it's
person.
super fun when you're sitting there like mining, and then all of a sudden some random dude wearing fucking yellow walks by. You're like, I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yeah,
It's like,
I hate this guy. I hate this guy. I hate this guy.
fuck this guy. I don't even
Yeah,
like
or
him.
like a dog that just saw a squirrel. You're like, I don't know why, but I hate this person. So yeah, I think it's great that they're doing something that's actually quite different. I mean, if you look at every individual element of the game, it is similar to other games, and it might not be doing it better,
Mhm.
but the overall thing is quite different within the genre of the
Absolutely.
MMO. And I think it's important to pay attention to that because if this game grows in popularity, I don't think that you're going to see massive dips in other populations. I don't think the BDO community is going to leave. I don't think the WoW community is going to leave. Guild Wars 2, whatever. Um, I think all those communities are going to be safe. This is going to pull a new crowd of players in, and that's exactly what you need to do if you want to be a big MMO.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think Riot is going to do because they're so fantastic at onboarding new players,
Yeah.
making the game accessible, and then yeah.
Just look at the fucking player numbers between CS:GO and Valorant. It's insane. Just looking at how fast like the introduction of a tactical shooter to new people was just a big brain move by Riot, and now they've just made
Mhm.
it free to play. And then they were like, oh, but guess what? $50 skin packs, and now they've made their money. I like that.
Yeah,
I think that's a
and
good way to merchandise. It
they
fucking
also
works.
didn't really like steal the CS:GO community. Like the
Oh,
CS:GO community took a bit of a dip, but
hmm,
like Riot's game is doing fantastic. They have so many
yep.
people playing it, and it's not because people were quitting CS:GO. It's because they pulled in a new crowd because they were good at onboarding new players,
It's
and
because
that's
a
just
lot of people
super
went,
important.
oh, I'll try this, and then they went, this is good, and there
Yeah.
you go. That's all it needs is just have something interesting so people try it. Main takeaway. Anyways, any shouts out for us? Want to do your pluggy plugs?
Yeah, I've been making some theorycraft videos. I've been
Yeah, you
doing
have.
a lot of New World content in general. I'm gonna try and talk more about other MMOs and other stuff. Try and make it like 10-minute videos, concise stuff. Maybe some topics that we talk here, but I'm gonna try and like convey it in a different way on my channel. And you can check that all out at Apo, um, both YouTube and Twitch. I will be trying to stream more Twitch whenever New World comes out, but I'm probably not gonna be streaming up until then. So you can check all my content on my YouTube until then.
Ready? And then you can find me at WhiteBoyOS on Twitter and Twitch. I'm probably going to be starting to do some editing of this podcast, so we can do TikToks, which is going to be kind of fun. I'm going to make them very
Hey
raunchy and
kids.
just fucking weird. It's going to be awful. We are not children, and we are going to be trying to interact with children. Not that way. Anyways,
Police, nah, it wasn't
that
not me.
anyway, have a great day. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time. Goodbye.
It's a good way to end it.